He thought it was just another trip to the shelter, rows of cages, forgotten dogs waiting for a chance. But when one German Shepherd puppy locked eyes with him and began to cry, everyone froze. No one expected the heartbreaking truth that was about to unfold. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The shelter was quiet that morning, yet it carried a heaviness that could be felt the moment you stepped inside. Rows of metal cages stretched down the corridor, each holding a story of abandonment, dogs pacing anxiously, some curled in corners with eyes that had long given up hope. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant, mixed with the sorrowful sound of whimpers and barks echoing through the concrete walls. Mark, a man in his late 50s with tired eyes and a heavy heart, walked slowly past the kennels. He wasn't there just to browse. Each visit reminded him of a loss he once carried, but today felt different. His steps echoed against the floor, and for a moment he hesitated. Something deep inside told him this day would not be like the others. Somewhere in this shelter, behind one of these cages, destiny was waiting. Mark continued down the corridor, his hand brushing lightly against the cold metal of the cages. Most of the dogs barely noticed him. Some barked half-heartedly, others lay silently, their eyes dull with resignation. He had seen it all before, and every time it left a mark on him. But then, it happened. From the corner of his eye, Mark noticed sudden movement. A small German Shepherd puppy pressed its tiny paws against the cage, eyes wide, ears perked, tail tucked low. The moment their eyes met, the pup let out a sharp, high-pitched cry that cut through the air. It wasn't just a bark. It was a desperate, emotional sound that made Mark freeze in place. The puppy pawed harder at the fence, whimpering, almost as if begging him not to walk past. His tiny body trembled, his gaze locked on Mark with an intensity that made the man's chest tighten. Other visitors stopped, whispering among themselves. "Why is he crying like that?" one asked softly. Mark couldn't move. Something about that little shepherd's reaction was different, personal, almost haunting. It was as if the puppy already knew him, and the recognition was too powerful to ignore. Mark's heart pounded as the little shepherd's cries grew louder. The sound wasn't random. It carried weight, almost like the dog was calling out to him. His feet felt rooted to the ground, and for a moment he forgot there were other people in the shelter. He stepped closer, crouching near the cage. The puppy pressed his nose through the metal, whimpering as though afraid he might disappear. Mark's hand trembled as he reached out, brushing his fingers against the pup's muzzle. A rush of memories hit him. Years ago, he had rescued a shepherd puppy, barely a few weeks old. But life had been cruel. Circumstances forced him to give the dog away. It was the hardest decision he had ever made, and the guilt never left him. Now, staring into this puppy's eyes, Mark felt that same ache return. The resemblance was uncanny, the same soulful eyes, the same faint mark near the ear. Could it be possible? His chest tightened and he whispered, barely audible, "It can't be." "Can it?" The puppy cried louder, pawing at the cage again, as if answering him. The connection was undeniable, familiar, raw, and heartbreakingly real. Mark's trembling voice caught the attention of a nearby staff member. A young woman in a Navy shelter uniform stepped closer, curiosity on her face. She glanced at the puppy, who was still pressed against the cage, and then back at Mark, noticing the tears forming in his eyes. "This one's been different since he came in," she said softly. "He hardly reacts to anyone. But the moment you walked by, it's like he knew you." Mark swallowed hard, trying to steady himself. "Where did he come from?" he asked. The staffer pulled out a clipboard, flipping through notes. "Found abandoned by the highway. Malnourished, terrified, but he survived. We estimated he's only a few months old." Mark's breath caught. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly falling into place. His heart told him the truth, but hearing her words made the possibility even more real, and even more unbearable. Mark's chest tightened as the shelter worker lowered her voice. almost hesitant to continue. "There's something you should know," she said, her eyes soft with pity. Mark straightened, bracing himself. "What is it?" The woman sighed, clutching the clipboard closer. "We're overcrowded. Funding is short. If this little one isn't adopted soon." Her voice trailed off. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Mark's stomach dropped. The meaning was clear. The puppy's cries, the desperate way he clung to the cage. It was as if he knew his time was running out. "No," Mark whispered, shaking his head. His knees weakened, and he crouched down again, pressing his hand against the cold bars. The puppy whimpered louder, licking at his fingers as tears blurred Mark's vision. Other visitors glanced over, sensing the gravity of the moment. But for Mark, the world had narrowed to one truth. This fragile life hung in the balance. The shelter worker gently added, "He doesn't have much time left." Mark's heart broke. The idea of walking away, of leaving the puppy to a fate sealed by circumstance, felt unbearable. Yet his own situation was complicated, and the weight of that decision crushed him. Mark sat back on his heels, his hand still pressed against the bars as the puppy whimpered softly. Every part of him screamed to take the little shepherd home, to give him the love and safety he deserved. But reality hit like a cruel weight. His landlord had a strict no-pets policy. His income barely covered rent and bills. And his health. His doctor had warned him not to take on too much responsibility. Mark's heart ached with the crushing truth. He wasn't sure he could give the puppy the life he needed. The puppy's cries grew softer now, almost mournful, as if sensing his hesitation. Mark felt torn in two, between logic and love, between what he could manage and what his soul demanded. Walking away felt impossible, yet staying meant facing an even harder choice. His chest tightened. Time was slipping away. Mark's pulse quickened as he rose to his feet, pacing in front of the cage. Every second felt like sand slipping through an hourglass, the sound of the puppy's cries echoing in his ears like a countdown. He couldn't just walk away. Not now, not after this. "Please," he begged the staffer. "There has to be another option. Can't you hold him longer?" The young woman shook her head sadly. "We don't have the space. We're already over capacity." Desperation pushed Mark into action. He pulled out his phone, calling friends, leaving voicemails. "Please, I need help. Just foster him for a while until I can figure something out." His voice trembled with urgency, but voicemail after voicemail went unanswered. Every door seemed to close before it could open. He glanced back at the shepherd puppy, whose tiny paws scraped against the cage as if reaching for him. Visitors had stopped to watch now, sensing the urgency. Mark's chest tightened. He couldn't fail this pup, not when he had already lost once before. The clock was ticking, and if he didn't find a solution soon, the puppy's cries might be silenced forever. Just when Mark's hope began to fade, a voice broke through the tension. "Wait!" A middle-aged woman in a rescue organization vest stepped into the corridor. She had been observing the scene quietly, her eyes fixed on the desperate bond between man and pup. "We'll take him," she said firmly. "Our rescue can step in. No euthanasia. No more waiting." Mark's breath caught, disbelief washing over him. The staffer's eyes widened in relief. The puppy let out one last desperate cry before wagging his tail wildly, sensing his fate had shifted in a single miraculous moment. Mark knelt down once more, his eyes meeting the puppy's through the bars. This time, there were no cries, only a soft whimper and a wagging tail. The little shepherd pressed his paw against Mark's hand, and for the first time all day he seemed calm. "You're safe now," Mark whispered, his voice breaking. "I promise." As the rescue worker prepared the paperwork, Mark lingered, soaking in the moment. Around them, the shelter noises faded. All that mattered was this fragile life that had been given a second chance. Love, loyalty, and hope had rewritten fate.